Hey everyone, Billy here. Let's start with a question to set the tone. What is it that really makes a thriller grab you by the edge of your seat? And does Michael Connelly's audiobook version of The Narrows hit all those marks? Connelly is celebrated for crafting suspenseful plots with richly layered characters, but audiobooks can change the experience in surprising ways. Today, we're exploring whether The Narrows keeps the tension high and the thrills intact in audio form. If you're a Connelly fan or just love a good thriller, stay tuned for an in-depth breakdown of what works, and what might not, in this audiobook experience. Michael Connelly has a well-deserved reputation as one of the finest crime fiction authors, with stories that dive deep into the minds of both law enforcement and the criminals they pursue. The Narrows continues this tradition, bringing back Terry McCaleb, a character fans of Connelly may remember from previous works, and weaving him into a fresh, suspenseful storyline. For those new to Connelly or McCaleb, this story follows the retired FBI agent as he's pulled back into the world he thought he left behind, uncovering secrets and confronting threats that are anything but clear-cut. But the big question here is how well The Narrows translates into an audiobook. Audiobooks offer the chance to experience a novel differently, sometimes adding another layer of immersion, other times, perhaps losing something in translation. So, is The Narrows a must-listen, or are you better off with the print version? Let's break it down. Audiobooks bring storytelling to life, but they come with a unique set of challenges, especially with a thriller as detailed and layered as The Narrows. One of the biggest potential pitfalls lies in pacing. Connelly's books are known for building tension slowly, unfolding layers of detail and backstory that pull the reader into his world. In print, readers have the flexibility to speed up or slow down, absorbing these details at their own pace. But in audiobook form, we're entirely at the mercy of the narrator's pace. With The Narrows, there's a question of how well the narration holds up against the need for both suspense and detail. Slow-burning thrillers can be engaging for some listeners, but for others, they might struggle with sections that feel drawn out or overly descriptive in audio format. Another challenge lies with character distinction in narration. The Narrows involves a fairly complex cast with intertwining motives and backstories. If the narrator doesn't manage to clearly differentiate each character, it can sometimes become hard to follow, especially when switching between tense scenes and character perspectives. Given these hurdles, does The Narrows succeed in maintaining clarity and intensity throughout the story? Let's delve into the specifics of the narration and pacing to find out. Now, let's dive into the meat of the story, the plot and the characters. The Narrows is centered around a reawakening of sorts for Terry McCaleb. Though he's no longer active in the FBI, he's drawn back into investigating a suspicious death. This isn't just any case, McCaleb has personal ties to it, which raises the stakes both for him and for the listener. Character development is where Connelly excels, and McCaleb's return to the investigative scene showcases that talent. He's far from a one-dimensional protagonist, he's weighed down by the consequences of his past cases and carries a personal connection that pushes him to dig deeper than he might otherwise. Other characters, from his allies to his opponents, are similarly developed with moral complexity and personal stakes, drawing us into their individual struggles. But in the audio format, the effectiveness of these layered personalities largely depends on how well the narrator conveys subtle shifts in tone and emotion. Thankfully, the narration in The Narrows does an admirable job in this regard. The narrator captures McCaleb's complex mix of resilience and fatigue, which adds weight to his character's journey and helps listeners connect with him on a deeper level. However, there are moments where the transitions between characters can feel a little muddled, especially if you're not paying close attention. It's something to consider if you're listening on the go or tend to get distracted. Another element worth noting is the thematic depth Connelly brings to the plot. His stories often touch on ethical dilemmas and the blurred lines between justice and vengeance. The Narrows is no exception, presenting questions about the lengths we're willing to go to find the truth, and whether those lengths are always justified. In audiobook form, these themes are powerful but, at times, may be less impactful without the visual reinforcement of written words. That said, for a listener willing to engage actively with the material, The Narrows offers plenty to think about. Every thriller hinges on that one pivotal moment that ramps up the stakes and keeps us on the edge of our seats, and The Narrows has a few of these. One of the most gripping twists comes when McCaleb realizes that his investigation has led him into a much larger and more dangerous conspiracy than he initially thought. It's not just about solving a single murder, there are darker forces at play, and McCaleb finds himself in a race against time to bring these hidden truths to light. This twist is effectively brought to life in the audiobook thanks to a skilled narrative build-up. The narrator's pacing shifts slightly as McCaleb's realization dawns, creating a palpable sense of urgency. But there are moments where the suspense doesn't hit as hard as it might in print. The lack of control over pacing in audio form means that some listeners may find the climactic scenes a bit rushed, while others might think they drag on. Nonetheless, this climactic turn is a testament to Connelly's talent for crafting high-stakes scenarios with real emotional weight. It's a defining moment that brings together all the elements Connelly has woven into the plot. But again, without the option to reread or skim through certain lines, some nuances may feel a bit blurred in the audio experience. If you're a fan of detailed plotting and intense showdowns, this climax should still deliver an engaging experience, though it may require a bit of patience if you're used to faster-paced thrillers. To sum it up, The Narrows is a classic Connelly thriller that brings plenty to the table in terms of suspense, character depth, and thematic richness. As an audiobook, it benefits from solid narration that effectively captures the mood and tension of the story. However, like any good thriller in audio form, it comes with some challenges. The slower pacing and detailed storytelling might test the patience of listeners who prefer fast-paced action. Yet, for those who enjoy sinking into a well-developed plot, The Narrows provides a rich experience worth the time. While it's not without its downsides, particularly in terms of pacing and character differentiation, the audiobook does justice to Connelly's original work. Whether you're a die-hard fan or new to his books, The Narrows is worth a listen, especially if you appreciate stories that explore moral complexities and offer more than just surface-level thrills. If you enjoyed this review, I'd love to hear what you think of The Narrows. Have you listened to it or read the print version? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm curious to see if your take matches mine. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you'd like to see more reviews of thrillers, mysteries, and more. Thanks for joining me on Truth Meets Fiction, where we dive into some of the best, and sometimes, the most challenging, stories in audiobooks. This is Billy, signing off for now, but I hope you'll join me again soon for our next deep dive into the world of thrilling reads. Take care, and see you next time.